The blade sliced through fabric with a sickening rip. Ashley Thompson stood frozen in the middle of her classroom, feeling the cool air hit her back as her dress split from hem to waist. Behind her, Brandon Williams twirled the box cutter between his fingers. His Letterman jacket stretched tight across his broad shoulders as he laughed. "Oops," he said, voice dripping with fake innocence. "Guess you should have watched where you were standing, Miss Thompson." The other students gasped. Someone dropped a textbook. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across 23 shocked faces. Ashley's hands trembled, not from fear, but from something else entirely. She turned slowly, her brown eyes meeting Brandon's blue ones. A smile played at the corner of her lips. "Wrong choice, kid," she said, her voice steady as steel. "But wait, to understand what happened next, we need to go back. 2 months, to be exact, back to when Ashley Thompson was just another idealistic teacher trying to make a difference at Lincoln High School in Westerville, Ohio. Ashley had been teaching for exactly 1 year and 4 months, fresh out of graduate school, full of dreams about inspiring young minds through literature. She wore cardigans and sensible flats, kept her dark hair in a neat bun, and actually believed that every student could succeed if given the chance. Lincoln High seemed perfect. "Home of Champions," the sign read at the entrance, right next to the trophy case filled with gleaming gold and silver. What the sign didn't mention was that most of those trophies had been bought, not earned. It was a Tuesday morning in September when Ashley handed back the first batch of essays. She moved through the rows of desks, placing papers face down, offering encouraging smiles when she reached Brandon Williams's desk. She hesitated for just a moment. Brandon sat sprawled in his chair like he owned the place, which, technically, his family almost did. Captain of the football team, 6'2", with the kind of all-American good looks that belonged on a movie poster. His father owned Williams Construction, the company that had built half the town and donated $2 million to the school just last year. Ashley placed the paper on his desk. The red F at the top seemed to glow like a neon sign. The room went silent. Not the normal quiet of students checking their grades, but the thick, suffocating silence that comes before a storm. Brandon stared at the paper. His jaw tightened. The muscle in his cheek twitched. "This is a mistake," he said finally. "It's not," Ashley replied calmly. "The entire second paragraph is copied, word for word from Spark Notes. The thesis is taken from a homework help site. Even the conclusion isn't original." "You're calling me a cheater?" His voice rose, echoing off the cinder block walls. "I'm saying this essay is plagiarized. You can rewrite it for a maximum grade of 70%, or take the 0. Your choice." Nobody breathed. In the back row, Madison Mitchell's eyes went wide. Everyone knew you didn't cross Brandon Williams. Teachers who did found themselves mysteriously reassigned. Students who did found themselves friendless, or worse. Brandon stood up slowly, his chair scraping against the linoleum floor. He towered over Ashley's 5'4" frame. "My dad donates millions to this school," he said, each word deliberate. "You might want to reconsider." Ashley didn't flinch. "Integrity isn't for sale, Brandon. Not in my classroom." The bell rang, sharp and sudden. Students scrambled for the door, eager to escape the tension. Brandon stayed put, his hands clenched into fists. "You'll regret this," he said quietly, then turned and walked out. Ashley's hands shook as she gathered her papers. Nathan Davis, the math teacher from next door, poked his head in. "Everything okay?" Sounded intense. "Oh, just upholding academic standards," Ashley said, forcing a smile. Nathan's face was concerned. "Be careful. The Williams family, they don't take kindly to people who don't play ball." That afternoon, Principal Michael Anderson's office felt smaller than usual. The walls were covered with photos of him shaking hands with local politicians and business leaders. In half of them, Brandon's father, Richard Williams, stood front and center, his arm around Anderson's shoulders like they were old friends, which they were. "You failed, Brandon Williams," Anderson said without preamble. He was a thin man in his 50s, with nervous hands that constantly straightened his tie. "I caught him plagiarizing," Ashley replied. "Are you absolutely certain? Because Richard Williams just called me. He's concerned about the quality of instruction his son is receiving." Ashley pulled out her folder, spreading the evidence across Anderson's desk. Brandon's essay on the left, the online sources on the right. Entire paragraphs highlighted in matching yellow. "It's word for word," she said. Anderson barely glanced at the papers. Perhaps Brandon was confused about citation requirements. "Maybe if you gave him another chance." "I did. He can rewrite it for partial credit. Full credit might be more appropriate, given the misunderstanding." Ashley felt heat rise in her cheeks. There was no misunderstanding. He cheated. Anderson's fingers drummed on his desk. "Miss Thompson, you're new here. You don't understand how things work. The Williams family donation keeps our arts program alive. It funds our technology lab. It doesn't pay for my integrity." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Anderson's face flushed red. "I'm not asking you to compromise your integrity. I'm asking you to be flexible, reasonable. Giving full credit for plagiarism isn't reasonable. It's fraud." And Anderson stood up, the conversation clearly over. "I hope you know what you're doing, Miss Thompson, for your sake." The next morning, Ashley arrived to find her classroom exactly as she'd left it. Books neatly stacked, inspirational posters straight on the walls. But something felt off, wrong, like the air had been disturbed during third period. She opened her laptop to pull up the day's lesson. Instead of her PowerPoint on The Great Gatsby, her email blazed across the smartboard. Personal emails, private conversations with friends about her dating life, her struggles with student loans, her doubts about teaching. The class erupted in whispers and giggles. In the back row, Brandon Williams leaned back in his chair, a satisfied smirk playing at his lips. Ashley's fingers flew across the keyboard, trying to close the window. Nothing worked. The emails kept scrolling, each one more personal than the last. Her face burned, but she kept her voice steady. "Everyone take out your books and read Chapter 4 silently." She yanked the HDMI cable from her laptop. The screen went black. In the sudden quiet, she heard Brandon whisper to his teammate Mason Clark, "Guess she should have been more careful with her passwords." After class, Ashley went straight to IT Jorge Ramirez, the tech specialist, ran diagnostics on her laptop. His face grew increasingly grim. "Keylogger," he said finally. "Sophisticated one, too. Probably installed when you stepped out of class." "Can you trace it?" Jorge shook his head. "Already wiped. Whoever did this knew what they were doing." He paused. "You should change all your passwords. And maybe watch your back." "You think a student did this?" Jorge's silence was answer enough. That afternoon, Ashley stayed late grading papers, trying to shake the feeling of violation. The parking lot was nearly empty when she finally headed to her car. The setting sun cast long shadows between the vehicles. Her silver Honda Civic sat alone under the oak tree where she always parked. Something was wrong. As she got closer, she saw it. All 4 tires slashed. Rubber splayed out like flower petals. Across the hood, scratched deep into the paint. Leave or else. Her hands shook as she called security. Officer Tom Bradley arrived within minutes, his flashlight playing over the damage. "Jesus," he muttered. "Who'd you piss off? I need to see the security footage," Ashley said. Bradley's face was apologetic. "Cameras have been down for maintenance all week. Terrible timing." Of course they were. Ashley felt rage building in her chest. "Don't you find that convenient? Look, Miss Thompson, I'll file a report, but without footage." He shrugged helplessly. Ashley called a tow truck and an Uber. As she waited, she noticed a figure watching from the gym entrance. Brandon Williams, still in his practice uniform. He gave her a mock salute before disappearing inside. The next day, Nathan Davis found her in the teacher's lounge, stress-eating vending machine cookies for breakfast. "Heard about your car," he said, sliding into the seat across from her. "This is escalating." "You think," Ashley laughed bitterly. "The principal won't help. Security footage conveniently disappears. What am I supposed to do?" "You could back down," Nathan suggested gently. "Change the grade. It's just one essay." Ashley thought about it. God, she actually thought about it. It would be so easy. Change the F to an A. Apologize for the misunderstanding. Go back to her quiet life of teaching and grading and pretending everything was fine. "No," she said finally. "If I cave now, what's next? Passing him when he doesn't show up? Giving him test answers? Where does it end?" Nathan nodded slowly. "Then document everything, every incident, every threat. Build a case they can't ignore." Over the next week, the harassment intensified. Brandon's crew, Mason Clark, Tyler Hughes, and Jake Morrison made her life hell. They showed up late to class, talked over her lessons, made crude comments just quiet enough that she couldn't quite catch them. Other students started avoiding her, afraid of guilt by association. Tuesday morning, Ashley found her classroom door slightly open. Strange, since she always locked it. She pushed it open cautiously. Everything looked normal. Too normal. She walked to her desk, set down her bag, and froze. There, in her locked drawer, was a dead rat. Fresh blood pooled around its small body. A note was pinned to its fur. "You're next." Ashley stumbled backward, bile rising in her throat. She managed to make it to the trash can before throwing up. When she straightened, she saw Mr. Peterson, the janitor, hovering in the doorway. "Miss Thompson, you okay?" She pointed to the drawer with a shaking hand. Peterson looked, his dark face going pale. "Lord have mercy," he whispered. He glanced around nervously, then leaned in close. "I saw some boys near your room last night, Brandon Williams and his friends, but I can't." "You can't say anything," Ashley finished for him. "I understand." Peterson's eyes were full of sympathy and shame. "I got grandkids in this school, the Williams family. They could make life real difficult for me. I'm sorry." Ashley nodded. She understood. Everyone had something to lose. That night, she called the police. Officer David Kim took her statement, photographed the rat, bagged the note. "This is serious," he said. "Death threats, vandalism, breaking and entering. We'll investigate." But Ashley saw the doubt in his eyes. She wasn't surprised when he called 2 days later. Without witnesses or physical evidence linking specific individuals, our hands are tied. Williams Construction does a lot of work for the city. The chief wants ironclad proof before we move forward. Of course he did. Richard Williams didn't just own construction. He owned half the police force, the city council, probably the mayor too. Money didn't just talk in Westerville. It screamed. Friday arrived gray and drizzling. Ashley sat in her car in the school parking lot, watching rain streak down the windshield. She hadn't slept properly in days. Every noise made her jump. Every shadow could be Brandon or his crew. The constant vigilance was exhausting. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it, and her blood ran cold. Photos of her outside her apartment, at the grocery store, at the gym. The last one showed her through her living room window, taken just last night. The message below read, "We're always watching." Something inside Ashley snapped. Not broke, but crystallized. Hardened into demon-sharp resolve. She thought about her father, dead 3 years now. Marcus Thompson had been a boxer, Golden Gloves champion in '87. He'd raised her alone after her mom left, taught her to be strong. What do you do when someone bigger tries to push you around? He'd asked 8-year-old Ashley, kneeling so they were eye to eye. Tell a grown-up. What if the grown-ups won't help? Ashley had thought hard. Push back. Her father had smiled, ruffling her hair. Smart girl. But first, you learn to fight. People only bully when they think you're weak. Show them different. They back down real quick. Ashley looked at herself in the rearview mirror. Pale, dark circles under her eyes. Looking exactly like the victim Brandon thought she was. Time to show him different. That weekend, she drove 40 minutes to Columbus, to a gym where no one would recognize her. Mickey's boxing looked exactly like her father's old place. Worn heavy bags, the smell of sweat and leather, the rhythmic thump of gloves on canvas. The owner, an old black man with cauliflower ears, looked her up and down. "You here for the cardio kickboxing class?" "No," Ashley said. "I'm here to remember how to fight." Mickey studied her more carefully. "You got the stance of someone who's held gloves before." "My father taught me, Marcus Thompson. Maybe you knew him." Mickey's face lit up. "Iron Mike Thompson." "Hell yes, I knew him. Man had hands like hammers." His expression softened. "Heard he passed. Sorry for your loss." "Thanks. I haven't trained in 8 years. Got soft. But now..." Ashley's jaw tightened. "Now I need to remember." Mickey nodded slowly. "Someone giving you trouble." "You could say that." "Aight then. Let's see what Iron Mike's daughter remembers." The next 2 hours were brutal. Ashley's body had forgotten, but muscle memory runs deep. Jab, cross, hook, uppercut, footwork, head movement. By the end, her arms felt like lead, but something inside her had awakened. The scared teacher was still there, but underneath, her father's daughter was stirring. Monday morning came too soon. Ashley arrived early, determined to reclaim her space. Her classroom felt different now. Not safer, but she felt different in it. Stronger. She pulled out her lesson plan, focusing on the normal routine during second period while teaching sophomore English. She noticed something. Brandon and his crew always attacked when she was alone, when she was vulnerable. They were pack hunters, picking off the weak. Time to look weak. Over the next few days, Ashley established a pattern, staying late to grade papers, always in her classroom, making sure people knew she'd be alone. She fixed the broken camera in her room herself, hiding it behind Shakespeare's collected works. She spoke with Kayla Johnson, one of her brightest students, who'd been documenting Brandon's behavior on her phone. "If something happens," Ashley told her, "be ready." Kayla's eyes were fierce. "He's been terrorizing people for years. Someone needs to stop him." But Thursday came with unusual quiet. No harassment, no threats. Brandon seemed almost subdued in class. Ashley should have been relieved. Instead, her instincts screamed danger. The calm before the storm. Nathan caught her after school. "You okay? You seem different." "Just tired," Ashley lied. "Look, maybe you should—" He stopped, looking over her shoulder. His face paled. Ashley turned. Brandon stood in the hallway, tossing something in his hand. Light glinted off metal. A box cutter. "Nice outfit. Miss Thompson," he called out, his voice carrying down the empty hallway. "Blue really suits you." He made a slicing motion with the blade. "Would be a shame if something ripped." Then he was gone, leaving Ashley's heart hammering in her chest. Nathan grabbed her arm. "You need to leave. Now. This is getting dangerous." "No," Ashley said quietly. "I'm done running." Friday afternoon arrived heavy with anticipation. Ashley sent her last student out at 3:15, then settled at her desk with a stack of essays. The school emptied slowly. Voices faded. Doors slammed. Silence settled like dust. 4:30. The sun slanted through windows, casting long shadows. Ashley kept grading, red pen moving steadily. Her phone sat ready. Kayla's number pulled up, 5 o'clock. Footsteps in the hallway. Multiple sets. They stopped outside her door. Ashley's hand tightened on her pen, but she kept writing. The door opened slowly. Brandon entered first. Box cutter visible in his right hand. Mason and Tyler flanked him. Jake stayed by the door as lookout. "Working late again, Miss Thompson." Brandon's voice was casual, almost friendly. "All alone. Just grading your latest essay," Ashley replied without looking up. "Another F, I'm afraid." Brandon's face darkened. "You really don't learn, do you?" "I could say the same about you." He moved closer, his crew spreading out to surround her desk. "My dad tried to be reasonable. The principal tried to be reasonable. Hell, I tried to be reasonable. Plagiarism and death threats aren't reasonable. Brandon, neither is destroying my future over one stupid paper." His voice cracked with genuine rage. "You think you're so righteous, so much better than everyone else, but you're just a nobody teacher who can't mind her own business." Ashley finally looked up, meeting his eyes steadily. "I'm a teacher who believes in consequences." Brandon laughed, ugly and sharp. "Consequences. Let me show you consequences." He moved fast, faster than she expected. Circled behind her chair before she could turn. She started to stand, but Mason and Tyler pressed closer, boxing her in. "See? We're just horsing around," Brandon said conversationally. "Halloween's coming up. I'm practicing my slasher costume." The blade whispered against fabric. Oops. The first cut was shallow, just parting the material of her dress at the shoulder. Ashley held perfectly still. "Nothing to say now," Brandon taunted. Another slice, this one down her back. The fabric parted like water. "Where's all that teacher authority now?" Tyler giggled nervously. "Dude, maybe we should—" "Shut up," Brandon snapped. He was fully committed now, drunk on power and the silence of his victim. The blade moved again, a long tear from her lower back up to her collar. Cool air kissed Ashley's skin. "There," Brandon said with satisfaction. "Now you look as pathetic as you—" Ashley moved. She dropped the scared act like a coat, rising from her chair with liquid grace. Her elbow snapped back, catching Brandon in the solar plexus. Air whooshed from his lungs. The box cutter clattered to the floor. She turned, and Brandon saw something in her eyes that made him stumble backward. This wasn't the mild-mannered English teacher. This was someone else entirely. Someone dangerous. "Wrong choice. Kid," Ashley said again, and smiled. But what happened next would change everything, because Kayla Johnson wasn't the only one recording, and Brandon Williams was about to learn what real consequences looked like. Brandon's eyes went wide as Ashley shifted into a professional boxing stance. Her feet spread shoulder-width apart, hands up, chin tucked. The transformation was instant and complete. The frightened teacher was gone. In her place stood someone who knew exactly what violence looked like and how to use it. "What the hell?" Mason breathed, taking an involuntary step back. Brandon tried to recover his bravado. "You think you can fight. There's 4 of us, and 1 of you." "3, Jake corrected from the doorway, his voice shaking. "I'm not getting expelled for this. Man, this is crazy." He bolted down the hallway, his footsteps echoing in the empty school. Ashley never took her eyes off Brandon. "3, then. Still want to play?" Brandon's face flushed red. His father had taught him that power came from fear, from making others feel small. But the woman in front of him didn't look afraid. She looked eager. "Get her!" he shouted to Mason and Tyler. Tyler rushed forward, throwing a wild haymaker. "Amateur move!" Ashley slipped inside his reach, her left hook catching him perfectly in the liver. It wasn't a hard shot, just precise. Tyler dropped like his strings had been cut, curling into a ball on the floor, gasping for air that wouldn't come. "Tyler!" Mason started toward his friend, then thought better of it. He backed toward the door. "Screw this, Brandon. I'm out." "Coward!" Brandon screamed, but Mason was already gone, leaving just Brandon and Ashley in the classroom with Tyler still writhing on the floor. Brandon's eyes darted around, looking for the box cutter. Ashley saw it too, kicked it smoothly under her desk. "Just you and me now," she said calmly. "No crew, no backup, no daddy to bail you out." "You're insane," Brandon spat. "You hit a student, you'll lose your job. You'll go to jail." "Self-defense," Ashley replied. "You attacked me with a weapon, destroyed my dress, made terroristic threats. But please, keep talking. I'm sure it's all being recorded." Brandon's face went pale. His eyes swept the room, finally noticing the small red light blinking behind Shakespeare's collected works. "You set me up." "No, Brandon. You set yourself up. I just made sure there'd be evidence this time." Rage replaced fear on his face, with a roar. He charged at her, relying on his size and football training. He was 6'2" and 210 pounds of muscle. She was 5'4" and 120 pounds soaking wet. It should have been no contest. It wasn't. Ashley pivoted smoothly, using his momentum against him. As he barreled past, she delivered a perfect cross to his temple, not hard enough to cause serious damage, just enough to ring his bell. Brandon stumbled, caught himself on a desk. He turned, swinging wildly. Ashley weaved under the punch, came up inside his guard. Her uppercut started from her toes, traveled through her hips, and exploded under his chin. Physics was physics. Mass times acceleration equals force. And all that force concentrated into one perfect point. Brandon's feet actually left the ground. He flew backward, crashed into the whiteboard, and slid down the wall. His eyes rolled back, showing white. His body went limp. And then, as consciousness fled and his muscles relaxed, a dark stain spread across the front of his designer jeans. Brandon Williams, terror of Lincoln High, had wet himself. Ashley stood over him, breathing hard but controlled. The silence in the room was deafening. Then, from the doorway, came the sound of slow clapping. Kayla Johnson stood there, phone raised, tears streaming down her face. "Miss Thompson, that was beautiful." "Kayla, what are you doing here? What I should have done months ago." She held up her phone. "I've been live streaming for the last 10 minutes, the whole thing. Him cutting your dress, threatening you, attacking you, everything." Ashley felt her knees go weak. She sank into her chair. Live streaming to where? Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, everywhere. Kayla's smile was fierce. 50,000 views already. The title is Golden Boy Bully Gets What He Deserves. It's going viral. Miss Thompson, the whole world is about to see who Brandon Williams really is. Tyler groaned from the floor, slowly uncurling. He took one look at Brandon's unconscious form and scrambled for the door on hands and knees. Ashley let him go. The damage was already done. Within minutes, the school was in chaos. Principal Anderson arrived first, his face cycling through shock, anger, and fear as he surveyed the scene. Brandon was stirring, moaning softly. The smell of urine was unmistakable. "What have you done?" Anderson demanded, rounding on Ashley, before she could answer. School security arrived, followed quickly by the police. Officer Kim, who'd taken her report about the dead rat, looked at the scene with something like satisfaction. "We need statements from everyone," he said. Then, to Brandon, who was now conscious but dazed, "Son, you're under arrest for assault with a deadly weapon." "What?" Brandon struggled to focus. "No, she attacked me." "That's not what the video shows," Officer Kim said. He'd already seen Kayla's stream. Half the force had. "You brought a weapon to school, vandalized property, and assaulted a teacher. Those are felonies, son." The next hour was a blur. Paramedics checked everyone over. Ashley had a few scratches from the box cutter but declined treatment. Brandon was loaded into an ambulance, handcuffed to the gurney, his designer jeans replaced with hospital scrubs. The humiliation in his eyes was complete. Richard Williams arrived like a hurricane. Expensive suit and fury. Lawyers in tow. "This is outrageous. My son was assaulted by a teacher. I want her arrested immediately." Officer Kim was unmoved. "Sir, your son brought a weapon to school and attacked Miss Thompson. We have video evidence from multiple angles." "What video?" "Where?" Kayla stepped forward, phone in hand. "Would you like to see it? Mr. Williams, 200,000 views now. Your son attacking a teacher with a knife, then getting knocked out and, well, losing control of his bladder. It's quite popular." Richard Williams's face went from red to white. He snatched the phone, watched 30 seconds of footage, and handed it back with shaking hands. For the first time in his life. His money couldn't fix this. The internet had already judged and condemned his son. "I want to speak to my lawyers," he said quietly. "That would be wise." Officer Kim agreed. The school board called an emergency meeting that night. By then, the video had reached 2 million views. News vans surrounded Lincoln High. The hashtag #BullyBeatDown was trending. Memes of Brandon's unconscious face were already circulating. Ashley sat in the boardroom, Nathan Davis beside her for support. She'd changed into spare clothes from her gym bag, but she could still feel the ghost of the blade on her back. Board President Sarah Martinez opened the meeting. "This is a disaster. A complete disaster. Miss Thompson, explain yourself." Ashley stood. "For 2 months, I've been harassed, threatened, and terrorized by Brandon Williams because I caught him plagiarizing. I reported every incident. I was told there was no evidence, no witnesses, nothing to be done. Tonight, he came into my classroom with a weapon and attacked me. I defended myself." "You're a teacher," Anderson interjected. "You can't just attack students." "I didn't attack anyone," Ashley said calmly. "I defended myself against an assault with a deadly weapon. The video is clear." "The video," Martinez said heavily. "Yes, let's talk about the video. The one showing our star student getting knocked unconscious and soiling himself. Do you have any idea what this has done to our school's reputation?" Nathan stood up. "With all due respect, Brandon Williams did that to your reputation. Ashley just refused to be another victim." "She set him up," Anderson insisted. "The hidden camera, staying late. It was all planned." "So was slashing my tires," Ashley countered. "Hacking my computer, putting a dead rat in my desk, breaking into my classroom with a weapon. Which one sounds worse to you?" The board members exchanged uncomfortable looks. The evidence was overwhelming and public. They couldn't sweep this under the rug. "Principal Anderson," Martinez said finally, "were you aware of the harassment Miss Thompson reported?" Anderson squirmed. "There were complaints, but no concrete evidence. Did you investigate these complaints? The Williams family is very important to this school." "That's a no, then." Martinez's voice was ice. "You prioritized donations over teacher safety." The door burst open. Richard Williams stormed in, no longer looking like the confident businessman who owned half the town. "I want to make a deal," he said without preamble. "This isn't a negotiation," Martinez replied. "Everything is a negotiation." But his voice lacked its usual force. "My son made mistakes. We'll withdraw him from school. We'll pay for any damages. He swallowed hard. "Make a substantial donation to an anti-bullying program. In exchange, Miss Thompson doesn't press charges." "That's not my decision," Ashley said. "The state is pressing charges. Assault with a deadly weapon is a felony." Williams turned to her, and for the first time, she saw fear in his eyes, not of her, but of what this meant for his son's future. "Please, he's 17. This will ruin his life." "He tried to ruin mine," Ashley said simply. "Aku?" Ashley looked at the broken man before her. 2 months ago, Richard Williams had walked into this building like he owned it. Now he was begging. She felt no satisfaction in his fall, only a tired kind of justice. "Your son needs help, Mr. Williams. Real help, not lawyers or money or influence. Therapy, accountability, consequences." "The video," Williams's voice cracked. 3 million views. Every college will see it, every employer. His life is over." "His life is changed," Ashley corrected. "He can learn from this, or let it destroy him. That's his choice." The board voted unanimously. Principal Anderson was placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The Williams family would withdraw their donation and their son. New anti-bullying policies would be implemented immediately, and Ashley would face no disciplinary action for defending herself. As the meeting ended, Martinez pulled Ashley aside. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "You should never have been put in that position. We failed you." Ashley nodded, too exhausted for anger. "Just make sure it doesn't happen to anyone else." The next weeks were a whirlwind. The story went national. Teacher fights back against bully became a rallying cry. Ashley received thousands of messages from teachers and students sharing their own stories. She was invited on talk shows, offered book deals, asked to speak at conferences. She turned them all down. "I'm a teacher," she told Nathan over coffee in the break room. "Not a celebrity." Brandon Williams pled guilty to assault with a deadly weapon, receiving 2 years probation and 300 hours of community service. The judge mandated anger management and therapy. The Williams family left Ohio entirely, seeking a fresh start where the video hadn't made their son infamous. Jake Morrison and Mason Clark testified about the months of harassment. They received suspension and community service but avoided criminal charges. Tyler Hughes transferred schools immediately. Principal Anderson was terminated after investigation revealed years of preferential treatment for wealthy donors' children. The new principal, Dr. Patricia Hughes, had a zero-tolerance policy that actually meant zero tolerance. Kayla Johnson became something of a hero at Lincoln High. Her quick thinking and courage had exposed not just one bully, but a system that enabled bullying. She started a student journalism club dedicated to transparency and accountability. 3 months later, Ashley stood in her classroom, teaching the same lesson on The Great Gatsby that had been interrupted that day. Her students were engaged, asking questions, unafraid to challenge and debate. The fear that had permeated the school was gone. She still had the dress, hanging in her closet at home, the one Brandon had sliced apart. She kept it as a reminder, not of the attack, but of the moment she decided to stop being afraid. After school, she drove to Mickey's boxing gym. It had become her regular routine again. Not because she expected another Brandon, but because it connected her to her father, to the strength he'd taught her to find in herself. Looking sharp, Mickey called out as she worked the heavy bag, "Your old man would be proud." Ashley paused, wiping sweat from her face. She thought about her father, about the lessons he'd taught her, about standing up to bullies, about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, about finding strength not in violence, but in the courage to say no. "Yeah," she said softly, "I think he would be." That evening, grading papers in her apartment, Ashley's phone buzzed, an unknown number. For a moment, the old fear flickered. Then she remembered she wasn't that person anymore. The message was from a teacher in Texas. "I saw your story. I've been dealing with a similar situation for months, afraid to speak up, afraid to fight back. You gave me courage." "Thank you," Ashley smiled, typing back, "You always had the courage. Sometimes we just need reminding that we're allowed to use it." She returned to her grading, red pen moving steadily across essays. Tomorrow she would teach, inspire, challenge young minds. She would hold them to high standards and accept no less than their best. And if anyone tried to intimidate her into lowering those standards, well, they'd learn what Brandon Williams learned. Some teachers carry textbooks. Some carry laptops. Ashley Thompson carried the knowledge that she would never again let anyone make her feel powerless. And in a world full of bullies and those who enable them, that knowledge was worth more than all the donations in the world. The scarred dress hung in her closet, but Ashley Thompson stood taller than ever.
She was proof that sometimes the best lesson a teacher can give isn't found in any textbook. Sometimes it's showing students that standing up for what's right, even when the whole system is against you, is the most important education of all. Because bullies thrive on silence and fear, but courage. Courage is contagious, and once it spreads, no amount of money or influence can stop it, in the end. Brandon Williams had been right about one thing. Ashley Thompson wasn't just another teacher. She was the teacher who reminded everyone that integrity isn't for sale. Justice isn't negotiable. And sometimes the smallest person in the room can throw the biggest punch. Class dismissed. 6 months later. Ashley was shopping at a grocery store in Columbus when she heard a familiar voice. "Miss Thompson." She turned to see a young man in a Target uniform, name tag reading Brandon W. He looked different, smaller somehow, though he was still the same height. The arrogance was gone, replaced by something quieter. "Brandon?" she said carefully. He shifted his weight, clearly uncomfortable. I wanted to apologize for everything. What I did was..." He swallowed hard. "There's no excuse." Ashley studied him. Gone was the designer clothing, the swagger, the sneer. This Brandon had bags under his eyes and calloused hands from real work. "I'm in therapy," he continued. "Court mandated at first, but I kept going. I was so angry all the time, at everyone, at you for not treating me special, at my dad for making me think I deserved special treatment, at myself for," he gestured vaguely, "being who I was. And now I stock shelves and go to community college at night. My dad cut me off, said I needed to learn what real work meant." He almost smiled. He was right. I was a spoiled brat who thought the world owed me everything. "Brandon," Ashley said gently, "thank you for apologizing. That takes courage." And he nodded, started to leave, then turned back. "That video, it saved my life. I know that sounds crazy, but if you hadn't stopped me then, I would have kept escalating until I really hurt someone. Or until someone really hurt me." He paused. "My therapist says I needed to hit rock bottom. Well, getting knocked out by my English teacher and wetting myself on the internet? That's about as bottom as it gets." They both almost laughed at that. Almost. "Take care, Brandon. You too, Miss Thompson. And thanks for teaching me the lesson I actually needed to learn." As he walked away, Ashley realized that sometimes the best teachers teach lessons they never planned. And sometimes, just sometimes, even the worst students can learn